Life is a blank sheet, an empty room, the perfect canvas. Our choices are boundless. We make them one by one, each choice moving us to the next. Then we look back over the line of memories that make a life. How do we choose to fill the space of time? We love, fight, survive, waste, fulfill. Here are parts of a life, recollections that fasten in the net of memory, the wine that fills the glass, not the glass itself. What makes us alike or different? We experience this, but can we truly share it? My children gathered around. They moved me into a home. The horizon used to be full of new destinations, pull inward to the infancy of old age. A set of stairs took all my concentration. I looked over the shelves in my medicine cabinet, pills, a dental bridge. The cosmetics were slowly replaced by medication. When I heard my brother was dying after a long fight with stomach cancer, we hadn't spoken in years. I realized this was our last chance to put our differences behind us. He basically had taken advantage of me after our mother died. He said how sorry he was for the way he'd treated me. And the old problems and feelings just melted away. He flickered in and out. We were like children again. Why couldn't we have done that sooner? I wanted to travel to see him, but that was out of the question. People tell me things about the recent past that I don't remember at all, but the distant past is still clear. Those memories are sharp. One of my earliest memories is from the old Pennsylvania farmhouse we lived in when I was born. The whole landscape is changing, sleepy stillness reshaped by relentless progress. It's not so much a memory as an impression. My mother had called in an electrician to do some work. He opened up the plaster and lath in the wall to get at a junction box and some switches. All the walls I saw around me were full of wires. The world must be a very complicated place. What I didn't realize, of course, was that the rest of the space inside the walls was completely empty. He'd only gone in where he knew the wires came together. Like baby apes trying to make sense of the canopy of vines and branches overhead. What can you trust to hold on to? But that one spot made me think. It made me think this hidden confusion was everywhere, filling all the spaces I couldn't see. Emptiness punctuated by chaos, a metaphor, how well we adjust to the world we create. My folks separated early. She traveled away with men because my mother was a great beauty. Cigarettes and martinis, like consumable fixtures always in hand and motion, wafting, clinking from shakers into triangle glasses on the rocks. These trips she made, they were hard on my brother and me. After one of these trips, she bought us green army caps, like Castro wore. Hats, and more hats. I must have dozens. Can I blame my persistent hat fetish on Fidel? And if so, what does that mean? It was after a trip to New York. My mother presented me with a small, red plastic nail brush in the shape of an ocean liner. I took it with me the next day when we stopped by the local general store. Simplicity, days without a stranger, people knowing the people they meet, generations back. By the meat counter was a big oak barrel filled with dill pickles and brine. That was where I launched my little ship. It looked wonderful floating among the big gurkhas, like it was surrounded by a school of shiny green whales. basking on the surface. Everything felt perfect for one moment. Feeling safe to act without reflection, no decisions, no choices, just impulse and action all in an instant, the ultimate freedom. Dancing class was something I really looked forward to. All the kids would be dropped off at the Lutheran church in the village. The boys and girls gathered in the basement. What is it about churches and basements, this simple setting repeated everywhere? The boys seemed never to be able to settle down as they spilled into the open room where the lessons were held. On the cusp of maturing, who to become, what to be. To get our attention, our teacher, Mrs. Griffin, would clap her hands briskly and call everyone together to discuss the regime of the day. She was tall and elegant in a kind of brassy, theatrical way. Her piano player was a young guy about half her age, and she would sweep him up to demonstrate the various dances. And when the time came to dance, Mrs. Griffin would say, "Gentlemen, please ask a lady to dance." And then all hell would break loose. Suddenly the steel chairs shrieked and groaned as we rose. That neutral ground in the middle of the big room, we needed to fill that with something good. The more aggressive boys would shoot across that open space, running like savages to grab the most popular girls. But there was one boy. He would sometimes wait, and he would choose that very last girl just to make her feel better. That really made an impression on me. So when it was our chance to choose, which only happened once every few weeks, I chose him. Warm eyes usually said something funny, completely unlike the others. The whole cruelty of the ritual was swept away. His gray wool lapels brushed against my electric blue velvet, and I could see his eyes focus on the lace of my collar, and he breathed in, kind of tentatively. But I could tell he was taking in the scent of my hair. I've been attracted to shy, considerate men ever since. One day, riding with my father in the car, I saw him with his dog on the edge of the woods. He looked up and waved, and my father said, "Who's that?" Weddings, such a rite of passage. And they always produce such rich collective memories in a family. No one owns the whole story. It belongs to everyone who shares it. Like a dry stream that spurts to life, suddenly overflowing from springs hidden underground. The first time the meaning of marriage really hit me was when I was old enough to think, this could be me. Wild, funny, tragic, never a middle ground here. One of my cousins married a Polish Catholic girl. This was pretty exotic after generations of controlled breeding within the local WASP lineage. They had to play all these kinds of ritualistic games to symbolically win each other. We generally try to avoid sweating in formal attire. Everyone still talks about how bravely he made his way through that Warsaw Wall. A chain rattling down the generations. Think of one, then another, and another. I remember when his older sister got married for the first time. It was the height of summer, 100 degrees. And we were packed into this little church. We filled it to the rafters. And when the minister told us to rise for the first hymn, this tall, gangly teenager from the groom's side just fainted right away. He crashed backwards over the pew behind him. They picked him up, and a wave of relief spread back through the congregation. Flee for the doors, get out before it's too late. There's oxygen outside. Everyone got out of their suits and dresses as fast as possible and got into the pool. That marriage only lasted a year. Shared memories growing, changing, edges softened, burnished by time. Deeds more heroic, beauties more extraordinary, family myths passing down. For some, this is the time to make a mark on the world or realize a dream. Piece of life right in the middle goes so quickly. Can we do anything to slow it down? Sure. I wanted to make my mark too. I had lots of opportunities. But there was one thing I knew I wanted more than anything else, and that was to have a family that stayed together and to be the best parent and spouse I could. Others would see these points as something given or automatic or traditional. I wanted them because they were new and unknown. I guess my husband was one of those people who put work ahead of family. I was working on a teaching degree. My son was finishing high school. My daughter, a year or so into college. The nest was feeling pretty empty already. One night, we were going to a dinner party at the apartment of an old school friend. He was already in a bad mood in the car on the way over, but I thought I'd just try to keep things going smoothly. I felt we were drifting apart and a cool emptiness was filling the void. Hadn't made love in 6 months, and I thought maybe tonight, after coming home, we could try to get things back on track. Not speaking, ignoring our reflections in the mirrored walls that boxed us in. Why hadn't we seen it before? The party went well enough. He managed to behave himself. But my friend could see the lines of strain deepening between us. When I went to help her in the kitchen, she said, "He's really getting to you, isn't he?" So it was that obvious. How many years had I spent here? What had I managed to accomplish? The children were a success. We'd gotten that part right. That was certainly my main goal. But the ability to share a life with someone else, had I simply chosen the wrong person? Looking out the kitchen window over the rooftops, I could see the decay, a universe of deferred maintenance. Skylights, gutters, vents, chimneys, some working, some not, who could tell? But none of that mattered. These people were happy. They cared about each other. They worked to make things work. I awoke the next day with a sense of clarity. I had to leave. All those years I spent backing him up, taking care of the children, well, it was a great relief when they supported me. Without attacking their father, they saw so much more than we let ourselves see. They simply understood. Middle age and memory seem to collide, and the relationship gets pretty complex. On the one hand, I feel I can look back over the broad horizon of my life while still in good shape. But then the small events of recent times start to slip. Where was I yesterday? Who's that person? Why am I standing here in the garage with a spoon in my hand? This makes me look ahead to a time when the immediate past and even the present may begin to make less and less sense. And I know I'm slowly dying. I think about dying in a way that seemed impossible in my youth. The immortality of youth, so alive, so unknowing. And I see how much I wasted that personal power. And how shamelessly that power, which I didn't understand and couldn't appreciate, was manipulated by cynics. And I realized how naive and even stupid I was. But time is not my enemy. I see a gain, not a loss. I see progress and a flow of lessons. Humility, patience, release, freedom. Now I feel I can really like myself, even love myself in new and different ways. And this selfless love of self spills over to the people around me. A perfect moment, like the child acting without reflection. In the mirror each morning, that face and the lines, they're just an overlay. I'm still in there, same old me, maybe better. The kids were settled and married, and I was starting over, entirely on my own. I didn't have much, but it felt great. Acceptance and happiness is about shedding blame. Reaching out, sure, why not? I started working for a local newspaper. Within a year, they had me running the place. People are desperate for direction. Often they'll take a bad leader over none at all just to have someone in charge, someone to turn to, or someone to blame. A large conglomerate was trying to buy the paper. Finally, they took over. I was let go before I could even make a case for the team we were building. It's impossible to purchase something that can't be possessed, let alone defined. The staff was in a state of shock. The months went by, they only grew more frustrated. Finally, after yet another pronouncement on how to be from the new owners, they all walked out. When a tree grows through a wire fence, both change to become something strange and wonderful. There's no backing up. To start again, you have to cut them both to pieces, and nothing is the same. I was looking out through the crystal ferns of ice that etched the window when a familiar pickup arrived out front. Suddenly, there were 11 people all hunkered around the stove, talking at once while I was pouring coffee. Animated, angry, but full of hope. Keep talking. Complexity's good. It's where we find room to compromise to be able to move forward. The ad manager, he blurted out, "We don't need them. We can do this with our own bare hands." No substitute for commitment. Money never conjures soul. So we started, and the town loved us. My children gathered around. They moved me into a home. My time is short. The horizon used to be full of new destinations, pull inward to the infancy of old age. I could barely change a light bulb. This set of stairs took all my concentration. I looked over the shelves in my medicine cabinet, and I saw pills and at a dental bridge. Kids told me it smelled bad, so they cleaned off the glass. The cosmetics were slowly replaced by medication. When I heard my brother was dying after a long fight against stomach cancer, we hadn't spoken in years. So I decided to call. A robot voice said to push pound. I just hung up. What's pound? So much senseless newness. This was our last chance to put our differences behind us. He lied. He lied about some money from our parents. He said he was sorry for the way he treated me. And old feelings and problems, they just melted away. He flickered in and out. We were like children again. Why couldn't we have done that sooner? I wanted to travel to see him, but it's just out of the question. People tell me things about the recent past, but I don't remember at all. The distant past is clear. Those memories are sharp. That's all I have to give. Everything belongs to the past. Hello? Hello? Call me again tomorrow. I'll try to make more sense. No one criticizes. They see the end for me, and I see it too. The calm ahead. Is that you, David? The past still clear. Whose horse is that? That's Mr. Jack's horse. Careful not to slip, Mary said. Walk on the rough ice.